All right, so you guys remember when I brought up Suge Knight and I thought maybe, maybe it was Suge Knight. Okay, so another thing in the story was that somebody told me that there was a serial killer on the loose. Well, there was, but not in that area. But the guy that I was talking to said he was from the South Side. And I just realized something as I'm trying to match up the faces. I go, you might think that they look really different, but technically they actually have a lot of things in common. And somebody started killing some people right after the fact, but not in the area where I was at. So let's take a look at this really, really quick. So the stats of Chester Dwayne Turner is what? 6'2", 260 pounds. Chester was homeless, but at some point in 92, but we don't know when in 92, he ends up getting with a woman. But at this point in time, when we're talking about, this dude was coming out from somewhere which seemed like maybe a hotel. He did not have a vehicle. I did not see him selling drugs or anything like that, but I can tell you at one time, I think he did pop a tab of acid. I could say that much, but that's about, otherwise he was just hanging out there talking with everybody. Beyond that, Suge Knight, let's take a look at him. 6'2". He was like the same weight. I would say they're both bald. And I don't know if he had hair at the time when it happened. Like, there's a photo of Suge at that time and he had some hair, but I don't even know, okay? We know Suge Knight was down the street at some point. But we also know Turner was getting ready to start murdering again, okay? This is so weird that I don't even know what to think at the moment, because I keep looking back at it and I keep saying, I don't recall anybody with a scar on the side of their face, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just my memory may have just went boop. Okay, but both individuals can fit the description of the person I spoke with, but we could have a third party in here that may be none of these people and some other crazy stuff. But initially, I chronically associated the look of Suge Knight with the person I was talking about. But I don't actually think that maybe it was actually Suge Knight there where we're talking about. I'm thinking maybe it could be that he came by. It could be these two are friends. I have no idea. Could you imagine him being friends with Chester, the serial killer? Yeah, probably. But let me go over here for a second, because it's really strange. Okay, so the thing about the Golden State Killer, we believe he was warming up, started calling me, and then he went and killed somebody, right? This is our theory to it. Basically, like, right before, okay, so, yeah, they kind of go dormant, and then, like, they get ready that they're going to start killing somebody, right? I'm calling it warming up. They may have a different terminology for it, because for some reason when I search for it, it's not there. But yeah, it's a thing. Like, they'll start doing things to get in the motion of it. Anyway, so I'm thinking, like, in this case, that maybe it was another case of that. It very well can be. They were telling me there's a serial killer on the loose and I need to be careful. Okay, so in addition to this story, I am not his target victim, okay? I'm not his target victim. But somebody's telling me, and there's no actual serial killer in the area at the time. Except for this dude, but he's not from the area. And the person that I was speaking with is from the South Side. Well, Chester's from the South Side, you guys. So this comment was made a couple months right before November 16th. So on November 16th, some murder started happening. Where is Vermont Vista? Vermont Vista is, okay, so it's located on Vermont Avenue between 99th Street and Century Boulevard. So, yeah, it's about 27, 29 minutes away. Not too far, you guys, okay? So if you have a car or you want to jump on a bus, you just go right down, okay? It's not all that. The question is, who's this person? So some of the characters that are important in the story is the people that I'm pointing out that's brandishing the gun. The person that brandished the gun has now since passed away. The two people on the side of him, at least one of them, I think, is that person, may have been there. And it's important because we need to know if it's a cop, it's if it's this or that, or a serial killer. That's the thing. Okay, there it is. But anyway, so he's a dropout. He started working for Domino's, and then his mom moved to Utah. Probably became a Mormon psychotic. I don't know. But she moved to Utah, and then he moved out and moved around into homeless shelters and missions. And the person I'm saying may have been homeless, may have been. He claimed he had a home in the South Side. But what you see here, he ends up being with a woman he's dating, and he had a child in 92 in the portion that we're speaking of. And so I was like, oh, no, shit. Did they ask Suge if he knows this guy? Just out of curiosity, because, humor me. Because the last time I said humor me, we found out Suge Knight was actually down the street. Can somebody ask him if he actually knows Chester, if he ever met him? They're probably in tie with each other. I mean, from back in the day. You would almost think that might happen because he's on the street. And, to his survival. Maybe he got involved in stuff too as well. And he's buying drugs, so I don't know. So anyway, in this 92 portion, this is when we're told there's a serial killer and I need to watch out. And then a couple months later, he kills some people down the street, about 27 minutes away. There was no murders in the Hollywood area. There was no serial killer in the area at the time we're speaking of. So the public, the general public, wouldn't say that. It doesn't make sense for even the street. When the street talks, they always talk about street talk. Like, the street will tell you things. So if the street is aware of a multiple killings, the street will start telling people on the street, right? People will pass around that, oh, you ladies need to be careful because somebody's out here killing us. They'll do this thing, right? Well, that's not how it happened. And they said that I need to be careful because there's a serial killer out here. And literally there's no story. Like, nobody came to me saying any women were getting killed. I didn't even see it in the media. I didn't see it even in person that, the cops are scoping out this thing because they think a serial killer out here. It just didn't happen. So I'm going through it. And I'm like, this is important though, because if you have a serial killer that they finally got, and they have no knowledge, he was right here in Hollywood, and maybe he'd be chatting it up with Suge. I don't even know. Somebody. We can't say, we're confused, okay? But they have the same statistic, the same stats, right? The same body stats, the same height. Suge sometimes is bald, sometimes he's not. I don't know. Anyway, they have very similar things. I wouldn't, you put them together, you wouldn't go, oh, they look like the same guy. But if you only meet somebody for a very short period of time, and you don't think about it for about 30 years, you can kind of mix that up a little bit. So you don't know who they are. It's not your friend that you hung out with for a long time and you haven't seen them in a while. Both parties could go up to another gang member and tell them to leave somebody alone. Both of them would have that type of thing going on. So, another thing in the story was like, yeah, we didn't know if it was an undercover cop that was a piece of shit up in here. They didn't do anything to me, but they're a piece of shit if they did not report that they seen children right here. And then these gang members be going on, okay? And then being a narc. Like, just a whole different thing. So we want to rule that out or rule it in. But we have this other thing right here. And so this is what we're trying to figure out. It's more than, someone brandished a gun. The people that are alive that were possibly present spoke with this person besides myself. And the small one is no longer here, but the two people, I believe there was two, but at least one, I think is the, his other pal that was speaking and saying, oh, he brandished a gun on him. And that guy, if indeed, in fact, this is the whole story, they spoke with this guy. There's another person that knows who the person is. Or at least they, they may not have the memory of it, right? But I'm just saying, there's another person that spoke with this human that we're trying to figure out who this is. And So I'm just putting it out there, and I'm showing you how creepy that shit is. It's really creepy. So the only other person that they could have been talking about is the guy they just put down, the Glenn Rogers dude. I would lean more on this one, just because there's actually activity like right after this, just not in the area where it was at, right? But there actually is. So that guy said he's from the South Side. That's what I'm like. There's a lot of things in it that I'm like, yeah. So are you telling me that I'm hanging out with a serial killer this whole time? We don't know who, well, we didn't know who Suge Knight was then, okay? So it's not even is not a random story, because it's like he's actually there somewhere down the way. But again, the association could be that they had connections. It just could be it's a brother, they're like, it could be because they actually had similar demeanor at the time of, and it just becomes a very coincidental memory that flip-floppery. It's just weird. I don't know, but yeah, this is the fact, you guys. This is actually a thing. So, and I couldn't even make up the story even if I wanted to. There's just too much. There's more coincidental things in it as I'm talking about the story, such as this. And I wouldn't have known there was this serial killer going on at that time. And then the weird thing was Suge and him have the same stats, though. And it doesn't make sense why Suge Knight would be out there almost like a homeless person. This person it would. Not for Suge. Suge's in the studio making money. You know what I mean? Like, it's this. So I'm like, why would he be out hanging out? I mean, he could be doing all kinds of things, but it doesn't make sense for him to do that. Also, a lot of people want to harm him, you know what I mean? So, like, why would he just be out there by himself? Do you guys think he did that? I don't think he did that. So I'm looking at it going, why would I confuse them? The person looks like them. Oh, who has the same stats? Oh, the serial killer. Somebody told me there's a serial killer here. This is where it's leading us. I have to follow it. But again, if the Willie dude, the other dude, if he could even jog his damn memory, does he even remember talking to anybody? If it's these people, I believe it is. My memory is way better than anybody else's. So this dude may be sitting here going, I don't recall shit. Yeah, so because a lot of these guys did a lot of substance stuff, so like their memories are not going to be as good as mine. So it may be just left on me, you guys, and I'm trying really hard here. I'm trying really hard here. My memory's pretty good though, because I remember stats. So I was like, yeah, no, tall, big, black guy. Tall, big, black guy. Really nice. Really nice. It was actually bothersome that I'm reading this and I'm like, that sucks, because if it's a dude that just murdered about 30 girls or something, that it makes sense, because you wouldn't expect this guy. But he does start talking like Suge Knight at a point, and calling guys gay, doing that thing, blah 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 blah. That's the same. It's so weird. I was just like, that I don't even coincidence. That's a Suge's alter ego. His twin is Chester, the serial killer. It's weird because like most of the time when you look at it, I'm still like putting the pictures together. Like you wouldn't go, oh, Suge Knight with this dude, but in angles, and if you never knew who these people were, like you just seen them for the first time, you could mix it up as a victim. This is what happens. That's why I said, this is why, you guys, I said I don't believe in lineups, because what if the whole time I keep associating with Suge because he's reminding me of the person that did it, and it's actually not him, right? It's this dude, right? And then they go in a lineup and I go, oh, totally, Suge looks like the guy that I was talking to. And then he gets busted, right? And then and then it's like later, oh, it was actually this other dude, and it's totally not the victim's fault. It's not. And I know it's going to happen. It's less likely on a little person that I'm pulling out. Less likely. Somebody that there's like another group of this little guy and these other people that were there at the same time. I would definitely stand up and say, I'm the wrong one. I mixed them up. But at least you know it wouldn't be on purpose. But the chances of that is way less than me confusing these two. Oh, man. Okay, so another thing in the story is that we don't know who the 13-year-old is, right? We know that that dude had the 13-year-old, but we don't know what happened to her. If we have, it's just hypothetical, we have a serial killer here. It's not good because there was actually a lot of young women out there. But okay, so here's what would rule him out. Things. Well, there's no rule out on this thing right here, but there could the things that can rule this guy out. So if he was spending time in prison, because sometimes like these cases, they'll be like, oh, this person's active, but then in the middle of this, like he went to jail. Okay, so then he can't even be out doing anything. Which doesn't seem to be the case in this portion, but I mean, he could have been arrested for a little bit, but then he went out, and that's when I ran into him. It's just a thing about that. So I was like, yeah, I don't see that. It says that he spent much of his adult life homeless prior to his capture. He spent some time in prison for unrelated crimes during his murder spree. In 2002, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. While incarcerated, DNA implicated him in numerous unsolved murders and rape. So they didn't know anything about him until 2002. Like, really, like they started putting this together. I have knowledge that there's somebody active, but it's not in the public. And that's why I'm like, this thing is whack. I don't even. Maybe, but that's the thing I'm questioning because the very first thing the guy said to me is like, oh, I'm from the South Side. Like, it's almost like a nod to the nickname that they gave him, the South Side Slayer. I just think it's weird that some guy tells me that, just generally. It's like, I don't give a shit where you're from. Just like he's giving location thingies. I don't know. And I was saying it wasn't questioned because all the South Side dudes came out and everything. And then I was like, why are they here? And then, but I remember that much. Southside and a house. He said something had a house. Some something with some bullshit of his house. Here it is. He was jailed multiple times in the 80s and 90s for theft, drug possession. First in 87, 89, 89, 2. Okay, 89 to 92. Okay. When I saw this the first time, I was like, yeah, I don't know when he got let out. So this is one of the areas where I'm like, when I ran into that, that pops, like, let's just say this is them. We have to know what this is right here, the date when he got out, because what could have happened is that they just let him out, and then he went to that area, and then he went and started hanging out where I was at. And then months later, because as you see, he's out and free, he goes and he starts murdering. So yeah, that it's right here because it's all 98, 89 to 92. So I'm assuming in this portion, he was incarcerated for just this like 3-year thing. And then they eventually let him out before November, obviously. And then in the span that I was talking to him was like a week or two. It wasn't that long. So he came strolling all over and then gave me that story like, oh, I'm from the South Side, I got my house over there, and then I'm waiting son do some stupid bullshit, you guys. It was okay. And then he got arrested for car theft. I told you he didn't have a car. So the guy didn't have a car. Do you think Suge Knight had a car? I think he had a car. This dude didn't have a car. He had nothing really. He didn't try to stay. I swear to you guys, this is the weirdest thing. He was so trustworthy feeling that you would leave your purse next to him and not even worry and think that he would steal anything. Which is so weird. At least this person that I'm talking about. And so they didn't steal any of my stuff. They didn't do anything bad to me. They got bad people away from me. And that's the interesting thing to the story. So I think it's important to know, because if it turns out to be this person, and you should know the characteristics of this person. Today would be different how I could read these people, but as a kid, this is how I viewed that person. Man, if I still had my car, I would say, could you swab the DNA in my car? Is it him? I was like, I don't know, because he was in the passenger thing. Oh, I don't like any of this. Like, I'm starting to think like there's a good argumentation that and probability, unless they tell me that they know for a fact that he was still locked up in the months of June, July.